According to a survey that was conducted by Northwestern Mutual, an insurance company, 7 out of 10 Americans consider themselves middle class. But are they? When you think of the middle class, you automatically assume most people fall into this category. But if you take a closer look, according to a research conducted by Pew Research Center, this category of people is reducing in size every other day. Only 29% of the population sit in the middle class, and 19% in the upper class. If you're unsure whether you are in the middle class or not, here are 15 signs to look out for. 15. Your annual earnings are between $50,000 to $125,000. There are many ways of determining if you're in the middle class or not, but one of the most accurate is evaluating your income bracket. The amount of money you make annually is the easiest way to identify what class you belong to. If you make between $50,000 and $125,000, then you belong to the middle class. However, some people within this category don't act as though they belong here. Instead of using all their earnings to acquire memberships to fancy country clubs or spending it all on expensive luxurious items, they invest a large percentage of their income. Their investment portfolio grows, and they acquire appreciative assets that increase their net worth. That is the difference between the middle-class person who earns $50,000 and spends as though they're a millionaire and the one who invests accordingly. 14. Your parents belonged to the lower or middle class. 8 out of 10 adults who belong to the middle class grew up with parents who were either lower or middle class. According to a recent research, 27% of people within the middle class said they grew up with lower middle class parents, and 44% said their parents belonged to the middle class. Economist Raj Shetty researched and found out that poor children born in some cities are not likely to go up the socioeconomic ladder. He also found out that some Americans move in and out of the middle class category within different generations. His research found out that 15% of middle class citizens grew up in upper middle class backgrounds, and 14% grew up in lower income households. 13. You're slightly more optimistic about the economy. Citizens in the middle class are very optimistic about the economy, and they believe the next year will be better than the next. They believe in growth and are positive about the future economic outlook. According to research, 47% of those in the middle class believe that the economy would improve in the coming years, compared to 43% of the population as a whole. 12. Owning gym equipment. Most of the people within this class have their own exercise equipment in their homes. This may include an exercise bike, yoga mat, treadmill, or any other equipment that will get your heart pumping without having to leave your house. Citizens in the middle class category are willing to invest in this, as they value their health. However, most of the time, this equipment often goes unused. Owning home exercise equipment is a sign of wealth because not many people can afford this. The lower-income citizens consider owning gym equipment at home a luxury. 11. Subscribe to wine clubs. Wine clubs make people appear wealthier, and the middle class strive to make themselves appear richer than they actually are. The middle class and wine clubs are a match made in heaven. They pay a certain amount of money regularly to have connoisseurs sent that would impress friends, colleagues, and neighbors. The problem with such clubs is that it's not guaranteed that you will like the wine. These wines also cost a lot more than what you would pay for at the store. Wealthy people in the upper class category don't subscribe to such wines, as they're already aware of the kinds of wines they like. Sometimes they even own the wineries. They don't need experts picking up their wines and telling them what they need to drink. A wine club subscription is a clear indicator of someone who is in the middle class. 10. They need an emergency fund. 47% of Americans don't have $400 available in cash to pay in case of an emergency, based on a research in The Atlantic. Most people in the middle class category, despite living a comfortable life, they've established a lifestyle where they survive paycheck to paycheck. In case of an emergency, they wouldn't know where to get fast money. Their credit card would probably be the last resort. The emergency wouldn't need to be a serious medical emergency, but something as simple as car issues, such as requiring new tires. Not having an emergency fund is one of the most dangerous positions anyone could ever put themselves in. It is important to have enough funds aside to cover at least 3 months of expenses in case you lose your job or need time to transition. Wealthy people have enough savings to cushion them during emergencies. 9. Knock off clothes. Middle-class people love designer brands, but they can't afford them. They want to show off and appear to be richer than they actually are. Since they can't buy them, they resort to buying knockoffs. The fake versions of the designer items are often of poor quality. They simply want to appear to be rich. Research indicates that 90% of all the Louis Vuitton merchandise in the US are fake merchandise. The wealthy upper-class people wouldn't buy fake designer items because they value quality. They can tell when something isn't real, as they know all variations of the designer items. Also, they only purchase items from specific locations and are very keen to ensure they are verified designer outlets. 8. Middle class watch reality shows. Based off research conducted by The Wrap, the middle-class people enjoy watching reality shows such as The Bachelor, MasterChef, and America's Got Talent. People in the lower-class categories love watching reality shows like Jerry Springer, Judge Judy, and the likes. They prefer the shows full of fights, drama, and shouting matches. Research conducted by Frank N. Majid Associates indicates that 40% of citizens who watch daytime shows make less than $20,000 annual income. 85% of them don't have a college degree. Extremely wealthy people, on the other hand, read books more than they watch shows on television. 7. Social media addicts. People in the middle-class category use social media daily. They have to always update their social pages. While it's a channel through which they interact with their friends and family, it's also a measure of their value. The middle class evaluate the number of likes and followers to their value. Comparing the rate of interaction on a social media page and trying to get the highest number of likes is no way to create real happiness. Real joy can only be derived from building healthy relationships and not from validation on social media. Rich people don't need any validation from social media. They are rarely online and will only use their social media accounts to build an audience to market their brands. The upper-class citizens are very busy with their own lives, that they don't have much time for social media. Sometimes they even hire someone to manage their accounts. Their confidence comes from their achievements and won't seek validation from online platforms. 6. Healthcare is expensive. Poor people often qualify for Medicaid, which provides free medical care. Most people go through their lives with free medical care as long as they're poor. However, as soon as they make some money and enter the middle-class category, they're forced to start paying huge premiums for medical care. The costs are even higher for people who are self-employed without an employer to cover their costs. The insurance premiums can be as high as a couple of $100s. According to statistics, one of the main causes of bankruptcy in the US is high medical bills. The rich don't face such problems, as they have extensive insurance covers that cover all their costs. The middle class can't afford these high premiums, as they are busy buying luxury goods they don't need. 5. They rent their homes. The middle class consists of people who rent and own houses, but if you hear someone rents their home, chances are they belong to the middle class category. Pew Research Center uncovered that the demand for rental spaces has grown significantly since the 2008 financial crisis. Close to 43 million Americans rent their house or apartment. People who live below the poverty lines or within the lower class have to resort to living with many roommates to split rental bills. Many others are forced to live with their parents or relatives. The wealthy not only have one home, but a couple. They believe renting a house is a waste of money. To them, owning a home that you can sell later at a premium is a worthy investment. They would rather take up loans to purchase such assets. While renting is suitable for a short while, over long periods it prevents one from acquiring building equity. 4. They value credentials. The people in the middle class value someone's credentials over the amount of money they make. For example, a lecturer with a PhD earning $30,000 would be ranked higher than a plumber earning $70,000 a year. The plumber would be considered a blue-collar or working class. Despite the professor not earning as much as the plumber and possibly struggling with some bills, he or she would be considered middle class, and the plumber, based on people's assumptions, wouldn't be. 3. They follow a traditional path. A higher percentage of people living in the middle class category have a traditional 9-to-5 job, a substantial salary, basic health insurance, vacation time, and intend to retire at the retirement age. Their parents probably went through this path, and they also intend to follow through with it. There's nothing wrong with choosing this path in life. In fact, it's the safest means to avoid poverty. However, the safest means isn't always the best means. It's hard to become wealthy through the traditional way. Most people only become financially stable through following other paths in life. 2. Use of streaming subscriptions. The middle class always have streaming services subscriptions such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu. They would rather have the convenience of always being able to access the entertainment provided at any time. It's great, but there's a downside. Using these streaming platforms is addictive and keeps the middle class from being productive, and spending quality time with friends and family. Most wealthy people hardly watch television. 1. You buy the latest Apple products. When someone is always upgrading their tech devices just to stay in trend, then they are definitely in the middle class. Most purchase these gadgets not because they have to or because theirs is damaged, but simply because they can. It's obvious that people in poverty can't afford the newest iPhone when it's released. Their current phone was probably released a couple of years ago. It's the middle class who are wrapped up in the facade of purchasing a new gadget whenever it's released. They're simply in search of the notoriety of being able to own the latest device. You would assume that the rich always have the latest of everything. However, this isn't true. Millionaires and billionaires know when to spend money. They often buy a good device that has great features and will last a few years before they make the next purchase. To be honest, is the difference between iPhone 12 Pro Max and 13 Pro Max so significant? So with that said, do you think you belong to the middle class? Or does this description fit someone you know? That's it for today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day and see you in the next one.